All right, so let's go through this assessment. And the idea with this assessment is that in order for this to work, you have to do the honesty part of it. And that's why this is the first call. So we need to be honest about all this stuff. We need to learn about what honesty and truth really mean. We need to be honest with ourselves for any of this to really, really work as a foundation to develop from. So let's go each one of these pieces. We've got our classic kind of teaching, seeing, correcting, group management, demonstration, presence and attitude, all that stuff. And then there's some other ones down at the bottom that I'm going to call virtues. But there's some things thrown in here that are not quite tangible as you might normally get from a coaching development setting. So let's break them all down, and I'll give you what exactly kind of 1 and 5 are on these spectrums as we go through. We'll start with teaching, and within teaching, we've got knowledge level. So knowledge level is going to be how much stuff that you know. You know very little, 1, you know a whole lot, and all the nuance of it, 5, kind of fall there. Do you also spend time growing and expanding your knowledge level? So make sure that if you're choosing 4 or 5, that you're spending time continuing to grow. Next, we have ability to pass on knowledge. Can you communicate the knowledge that you have to other people? So when you speak, can you make things simple enough to where people understand them? Kind of first go. They walk away with more information than they first started with you, rather than just hearing the words that you said and move on. 1 would be, no, you can't do that. The stuff you say is often very confusing. 5 would be, everyone walks away from you just not even feeling like they learned, but they learned. Then we have storytelling. Storytelling is kind of like exactly what I just said, ability to pass on knowledge, but it's the ability to create a story and use analogies and do stuff that creates an epic experience that you want to listen to. So not only can they get the information, but do they want to listen to the information? So are you a bit of a storyteller? And in order to convey teaching well, you do need to be a bit of a storyteller. 1 would be, I don't even know what storytelling is. I've never tried it. And 5 would be, your J.R.R. Tolkien in class format, and people just walk away being like, that was the most epic experience ever, and I know so much. That's what we're going to go with there. Lastly, we have clear direction. This is more of that mechanical tell, show, do, check process that we talk about at the level 2. Tell them what to do, show them what to do it, make them do it, check to see if they did it, and making sure that we have that kind of built into our overall psyche at all times. Every time we're relaying information in movement ways, we're just telling them what to do rather than, doing some big long rambling thing. Is it short and concise? So 1 is you don't do that. 5 is you do that without thinking, and it's seamless. Next, we have seeing. Seeing about dynamic, static, and emotion. So dynamic would be people when they're moving. Can you see everything? 1 would be no, you don't see dynamic faults very well, or you find yourself looking really, really hard for them, and sometimes they jump out. 5 would be everything happens. You just glance over someone, you can see like 10 things. Beyond that, and you can take it next level, Mike Bergner style, where you watch 10 people move, and you go, you do this, you do this, you do this, all in a dynamic setting. Similarly, we have the static. Can you see static faults, and can you see multiples going on? 1 would be no, you're always constantly looking and stuff's not popping out to you. 5 would be you can just look across a room and be like, you move, blah, blah, blah. And you do that seamlessly. Emotion is something we're going to toss into seeing that we don't normally see here. Emotion is, can you see the impact of what you're doing with people? Can you see it on their face? Can you see it in their energy? I know that's kind of woo-woo, but you can feel a change if you have the ability to see emotion well. This is kind of going in the realm of empathy, which we go down below. But when you say someone like, hey, move your stance out, can you notice when they go to move their stance out, they give you like a little like side look like, hey, and then you can internalize that and go, ooh, they've been told something different. And then you can connect with them and be like, hey, so I just saw a little look there. What was that about? Have you been told something different in the past? And they're like, yeah, I was told, yeah. And then you validate that. So the idea is that the ability to see emotion, a 1 being I don't see emotion, a 5 being I see every little thing and know its impact on the people and know how to modify once I see that little bit of emotion. So that's the spectrum, and we need to be able to see. Then we have correcting. Correcting, we've got four different pieces: verbal, visual, tactile, and personal. So verbal is can you say stuff and have people interpret it quite well and then change? Are you good at cueing that way? Visual is, can you move and show people and they understand it? You're doing this, I want you to do this. Tactile is, do you use tactile feedback and tools and stuff like that quite well? 1 in all of these is it doesn't make change. 5 is it makes change perfectly, and it's something that is unique to the individual. So that's where we get into personal. So 5 would be you take it out of the realm of, I have to give 2 or 3 cues to get somebody to get working better. And I cycle through between verbal, visual, and tactile, and you just know exactly the thing to go to that makes them better. So if you're 5, that's where you're at, and you've got a big kind of giant swath of things to use. Now, when it gets to personal is, can you make it custom to the person? So when you're cueing, is it just a generic cue, like push your knees out? Or is it like, hey, I noticed your knees are caving in. You're a skier, right? When you're going down the hill, if you bring your knees together, it keeps them nice and stable. In here, because we've got so much force on the outside, we want the knees pushed out. So do the opposite of what you're doing as a skier. So rather than bring them in, drive them out. I don't know. If they were a skier, that might make sense. And that was a lot of talking, wasn't short and concise, but can you personalize things? And that way that you walk by the person the next time, you go, hey, skier, and they go, oh, and they push their knees out. And do you do that to everyone? Do you make it all custom to the people that you're working with and know when and how to use those? 1 being never, 5 being everyone's got their own personal little relationship with you. All right, now we get into group management. Group management has a couple different sides to it. We've got planning, thinking on the fly, smooth transitions, and no dead time. So planning is how much do you prep ahead of time, 1 being none, 5 being I prep a lot and I'm ready to go every single time. And I know I plan for all contingencies. Then we have thinking on the fly. Thinking on the fly is when my plan goes wrong or something changes, how quickly can I shift and make it feel like my plan was running perfectly? That's the balance that we're looking for thinking on the fly. 1 being I can't and I don't do that. 5 being people have no concept that anything ever goes wrong. Smooth transitions. When you go from one thing to the next, it's very important that we transition in a way that it doesn't seem jarring and it feels like the class is constantly flowing. That's our goal there. And that's kind of that no dead time. So smooth transitions. Do you get gear out ahead of time? Do you plan really well to where you know exactly where you're going and what's happening and people are never standing looking around? So 1 would be no, you never have a smooth transition. It's always chunky and things don't work. This is kind of down to planning. And 5 being it always feels like the class is one big solid thing and you know exactly where the gear is and what's going on. Lastly, we have no dead time, and it's kind of with those smooth transitions and planning. I don't like classes that have a lot of dead space. Dead space is bad space. You want to make sure that the classes are filled with either them moving or them learning, ideally mostly them moving. And even when they're learning, it needs to feel alive. So that back and forth needs to be constant. It can never be this like lots of dead time where people are just like walking from thing to thing, or there's 6 people who are moving and then another 6 people who are standing staring at them. So 1 would be there's a lot of clunky, gross dead time and the energy feels weird. And 5 would be it's just start to finish. They never stop moving pretty much the entire class. And when they do stop, they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so glad we got to stop. Next, we have demonstration. In this, we've got the lifestyle. We've got congruence with what you say and what you do, breadth of movements, virtuosity of movement. So the lifestyle is, do you live the CrossFit lifestyle? Are you living by the things that you're saying? Are you doing the things that would make it so people would believe you? And that really comes also in this congruence with what you say and what you do. So the lifestyle would be 1, you don't do CrossFit, you don't do any of this stuff. You basically don't practice what you preach in any way, and you don't stand true to the ideals of, keeping track of data and always questioning things and seeking virtuosity, and you don't do those things. Now, in congruence with what you say and what you do, it's whatever you are saying, are you also doing? So are you saying eat healthy but then not doing it? Are you saying do CrossFit but then not doing it? Are you saying do mobility but then not doing it? Making sure that there's no dissonance between how you act and what you say, because that can be quite confusing. 5 being you always live in congruence with what you're saying, and you hold people accountable the same way that you would want to be held accountable, and 1 being you never do that. The other 2 things are breadth of movements. So can you do everything? Do you have muscle ups? Do you have snatches? Do you have handstand walking? Do you have whatever it might be? Do you have it? If not, you're not a 5, maybe a 4 or something like that. Do you have to have everything? No, but should you be pursuing it? Lifestyle-wise, yeah, you should be pursuing it. Of course, there's subjectivity here to what's truly necessary. But if you want to rank yourself a 5, you got to have all the movements. Virtuosity of movement is how beautiful do the little things look. So everything that you do, does it look amazing? And are you trying as hard as you can? And are you working on that? So virtuosity of movement, 5 would be yes, 1 would be nah. Next, we have presence and attitude. And I'm going to do 2 components of presence and attitude. We've got care and then leadership. With care, it's not do you care. 1 would be do you care? Yes, I care. It's how you express that. 1 would be you care. 2 would be people know that you care and you care the way that you care. 3 and 4 and 5 are working your way into making people feel cared for the way that they most need it. So a 5 would be somebody who everyone in the room knows that that person, that coach, cares about them, but in their own special way. We all have different love languages, right? So people are going to have a different way that they're going to be most receptive to the information that we're giving. Our ideal as a coach, our 5, is going to be somebody who can speak to whatever side that is and make people feel really cared for. Some people need to be held accountable more. Some people need to be given more grace. Some people need to be cheered at. Some people need to be cheered for. Some people need to be yelled at, and some people need to be spoken very softly to. So how are you modulating yourself to care for everyone in the room? And do they all know that they're cared for? And do they all feel cared for in the way that is most appropriate for them? Next, we have leadership. And you're always going to be a leader, and that is your positional authority. Because you're a coach, you're a leader. I'm more talking about this leadership as personal authority. Do people want to follow you? And not just your type of people, but every person. Every person you interact with, are they like, ooh, I want to be around that person? And that's what leadership is. So on the 1, people wouldn't want to follow you. A 5 would be, no matter who they are, what walk of life they're in, they're like, yeah, I want to follow this person. Even if they weren't my coach, I want to follow this person. Are you that kind of a leader? So where do you stand on that scale? So lastly, we have our virtues. And our virtues are going to be things that sit a little bit outside the classic coaching space, but they're very important for us and to grow as a human and be effective as a coach. So each one, as we go through them, I'll unpack for a 1 and a 5. Honesty, we have 1 being I don't tell the truth to other people or myself. 5 being I tell the truth to other people and myself always in ways that it can be heard. Because honesty, where you're just telling people the truth all the time, but they can't hear it, maybe it's not said in the way that they understand, that's not a 5. Always telling the truth to everyone might be a little more like a 3, but being able to say it in the way they can hear it, and then also being honest with yourself, that's more in that 5 range. So that's what we're looking for from honesty. Humility, are you humble? 1 being no, 5 being yes. Now, coupled with humility is confidence. We've got 1 being I'm not confident, 5 being I am confident. So here's the deal. Confidence without humility is arrogance. Humility without confidence is meekness. And we don't want either of those 2 things. We want the coupling of a 5 humility. You can underplay your capacity, but you need to deeply believe that your capacity is up here. And that's that confidence. So we need confidence and humility to be coupled with each other. Empathy is, can you sense the subtlety of human emotion? 1 being no, I don't know what you're talking about. And 5 being you can healthily sense anything that's going on and positively impact that if you want to. I don't think an empath is particularly healthy, somebody who feels everybody in the room, because you're then going to take on board their emotions. So you can't take on board everyone's emotions. You need to be able to sense everything and not take it on board and only give people what they need based off of what's going on. So that would be a 5 in that area. Then we have self-preservation. Self-preservation is a key basically to helping other people. You can't help them until you can help yourself. So you need to be able to help yourself. And there's 2 unhealthy ways to be self-preservation here. So a 1 would be you never take care of yourself. That would be a 1. Another one would be you only take care of yourself. So if you only take care of yourself and you don't look to give to others, that's also a 1. So what we're looking for is, on the 5 end, somebody who can take care of themselves, hold themselves accountable, but up to the point where they're good, psychologically, physiologically, life-wise, money-wise, whatever it is, and then they immediately shift to taking care of everyone else. And that's what it is. And they give and they give and they give. As long as they're okay, they give and they give. But they always preserve self. You need to make sure that you're okay, because you can't give if you're not taken care of. So where do you fall on that self-preservation? Then we have self-value. And this is the one that I said on the call when I was talking that I'm working on, is knowing your confidence and knowing your worth and then asking for your worth. 1 would be you never do that and you're always meek about it. And 5 would be you feel confident in asking what you're worth and you do that and you get what you're worth. And then lastly, we have humor. And humor is something that I think is essential to being effective in this process. 1 is nobody thinks you're funny and you don't think you're funny. 2 would be like you think you're funny, nobody else thinks you're funny. 3 would be like you think you're funny and some people think you're funny, but most people don't really think you're funny. Some people do, but not so much. 4 would be you're funny. Most people think you're funny, but you rub some people the wrong way. 5 would be somebody who is like genuinely funny in a way that people are from all walks find them very funny. Like no matter what it is, like what you're saying is humorous to any walk of life and you cater it to the individuals that you're in front of. You're making a joke over here that's wholly inappropriate and amazing and it connects with that group. You shift over here and you throw it and you do something super tame and mild that fits well with their sensibility and you balance those in ways that are appropriate for everyone in the room. That's the humor thing. That is our self-assessment. And again, in order for us to get this, have any meaning, we have to make sure that we are honest as we move through it. If you have any questions, shoot me a message about it, pat@coachesdev.com, and we can talk that through. Otherwise, click the link, fill out the assessment, save it, keep it. This is important for you to work off of.